everyone, it is Katie here, and it's that time of year again where I make the wonderful but probably not wise decision to take part in NaNoWriMo. So I have taken part in NaNoWriMo almost every year since 2012, and I take part in Camp NaNoWriMo as well. So I do this twice a year, and you would think that by now I would have learned my lesson to go into a nano mostly unprepared. See, I do this every year. Once Camp NaNoWriMo is over in July, I decide that I'm going to do the normal NaNoWriMo in November, and I think I've got plenty of time to plan a story, and then it gets to October and I still don't have a story. And then it gets to mid-October and I'm panicking because I have nothing. So then I end up throwing a bunch of jumbled, messy notes on a page and try and make a story out of it. I don't know why. I always do this to myself, but I never learn. But regardless of that, I am doing NaNoWriMo again, because at the end of the day, although it doesn't sound like it, I actually do love taking part. So what am I writing about this year? Ha! You tell me, because I don't know. It starts tomorrow and I just have characters. That's all I have. I mean, I know characters drive the story, but just characters alone really isn't enough. So if you saw any of my Camp NaNoWriMo vlogs from back in July, you will know that last year during NaNoWriMo I came up with a couple of characters that I really wanted to write about. So I just wrote down a few basic ideas for the characters and then left them. My original plan was to write about them in July, but then I didn't have a story for them, so I ended up doing something else. And then my plan after July was to write about these characters now. Still don't have a story. And it's annoying me because I love these characters, but I can't find a place for them. So by the time it got to October and I still didn't have anything for them, I started to rack my brain as to what I could do. So back when I did NaNoWriMo the first time in 2012, I wrote a story that I called Glimpse. Basically, it was about a teenage character who had psychic abilities. Whilst I liked that main character and I liked the psychic element of the story, it actually ended up really bad. I hated the plot, and most of the other characters I found extremely annoying when I was reading it back, so I ended up just pushing that story to one side. But then last year, 3 years after I'd originally written a first draft, I decided that because I loved this main character so much, and because her and her basic story had been with me for quite a few years. I think I originally came up with the idea when I was around 17, so it's been with me for a long time. Last year I decided to try and write the story again, but completely from scratch. I added in a lot more history to do with the ability that she has. I came up with this ancient society. So I had a lot of research and a lot of background info, but once again, rewriting the story just didn't work out for me. I was trying to make it completely different from the first draft, but I ended up falling back into some of the same plot holes. So I figured that the story was kind of unsalvageable. But then at the start of October, when I didn't have an idea for this year, I kept thinking back to the psychic element of that story, because whilst I was rewriting that last year, that was when I came up with one of the two characters that I really want to write about this year. Originally he was actually going to be introduced as an antagonist, but my original plan was to write a second story within this world that I was writing about last year, and that's when this character was going to be introduced. But because I ended up hating the story, a second one never happened. So this poor character that I'd thought up had just been left abandoned. He didn't have a place in that story, so I kind of just left him in a notebook, but I've been working on him a little bit all year. And then I had this other character that joined him in the notebook of doom. So when I knew that this year I was definitely going to write about him, I decided that I'd use the psychic elements from that story and put them with him, because he's kind of connected with that anyway in my mind because of how I came up with him. And I'd also really like to take the main character from my crappy story and give her a better story, because I think she deserves that. So I'm kind of going to take that character and her abilities from that original idea and put them in this completely new story that I'm working on. I also really like the idea of writing about psychic abilities again, because last year when I was rewriting my story I did a lot of research about extrasensory perception, and it's something that I liked reading about, so I'm interested in writing about it again. And also it's good to write about things that you're interested in reading yourself. I really love reading high fantasy, so when I'm writing myself, I always focus a lot on trying to make my own world and my own magic system and things like that, and it never really works out for me. But I always forget that what I also look for in a story is characters that find something special within our own world today. I like it when a story makes something in our reality seem completely possible. So when it comes to things like psychic abilities, whilst I'm not saying I believe that there are people who can predict the future or move things with their mind, stuff like that, there's nothing to disprove that a person can't actually have a vision of the future. So I like writing about something that could actually be possible, if that makes sense. It's another reason why I always find myself writing about ghosts, because in a lot of my fantasy stories that I've written before, I've written about spirits. That's because it's something else, again, that whilst we can't prove that they do exist, we can't really disprove it for certain either. So I do enjoy writing about things that could totally be possible. Of course, the major problem with writing about psychic abilities and ESP is that it's already been done a lot. So it's difficult to write about it in a way that feels unique. It's very easy to fall into a lot of cliches. I had this problem when I was first writing Glimpse. My main character had a near-death experience that gave her psychic abilities. I mean, that's just so stereotypical. Somebody gets a bang on the head and then all of a sudden they can see the future. So when writing about something like this, it is very easy to fall into a cliched mess. So I have to try and avoid that this time. But the story that I'm going to write about is completely different to anything that I wrote about with my other story. So I'm hoping that it'll be a lot more exciting. I hope. So yeah, I know the characters that I'm writing about, and I know about the psychic abilities that I'm going to include in the story. I know a few other things here and there, but basically that's it. I don't really know where I'm going to start tomorrow. I know a few key things that I want to happen throughout the story, but basically I have no idea how it's going to go. I mean, sometimes that can be exciting, just starting with no clear path, but it's mostly just stressful, really, and I'm disappointed in myself for letting this happen again. So that's what I'm doing for Nano this year, writing about psychics again. So please do let me know if you are doing NaNoWriMo this year. Are you completely prepared? Do you have notes? Do you know where your story is going? Or like me, are you just going to open Word tomorrow and hope for the best? Let me know all of your Nano woes in the comments. So good luck to anybody else taking part throughout November. If you want to add me as a writing buddy on the NaNoWriMo website, then I will leave a link to my profile down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye!